Hi, I'm Dwayne Brown. Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition. A building blitz in El Cajon. The mission: build 4 new homes in 5 days from the ground up. The speedy construction project saving money for new homeowners.
A San Diego hospital offers the only clinic in the county to help kids with transgender identity issues. I'm Peggy Pico with what's being offered. Also coming up, healing the racial divide, what San Diego religious leaders are doing to address race and religion after the church killings in South Carolina.
It's growing when we water them.
We really weren't meant to have big grass yards and be water guzzlers.
Raising the bar, the beach community with one of the best water-saving records in San Diego County. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Hi, good evening. Thanks for joining us. All eyes are on New York City as the minimum wage debate takes center stage. Fast food workers around the nation and San Diego rallied for higher pay today. Workers held signs outside McDonald's in Pacific Beach as New York workers gave their final public testimony to raise the statewide minimum wage to $15 an hour. A decision is expected later this year.
This is just the beginning. We're still in the process, and we're attacking cities by cities, states by states. Even official government leaders start getting into this movement because they see how big of an impact this movement has.
These municipalities started to go for increases in the minimum wage because, quite frankly, the federal government and the states are not doing a good job. I think people started to realize, yeah, we need to be on board, not only in fast food, but in retail sector and hospitality and in healthcare. So I think it's kind of like a movement's developed.
Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Seattle have all approved minimum wages of $15 an hour or more. New York could be the first state to adopt the standard. 2 game plans for a new home for the San Diego Chargers. The city of Carson hosts a town hall meeting tonight to explore the team's plans for a new stadium, shared with the Oakland Raiders. And tomorrow, the top negotiator for the city and county of San Diego will make a pitch to keep the team in town. He's expected to update NFL officials in New York on San Diego's environmental analysis for a new stadium, as well as the proposed timeline for bringing the issue to voters. Running dry in California, a water fight is brewing between farmers and state regulators. Ag producers missed a key deadline today to update the state and confirm they stopped pumping from rivers and streams. Some hold century-old water rights to irrigated water. Several districts serving farmers are challenging the State Water Board's order to cut back because of the drought. Expensive new water meters is the latest requirement for California farmers, a move passed with the new state budget. Experts say it will provide better water use information for the entire state. The plan includes meters on every spot where water is diverted at a cost of nearly $5,000. Critics say it may financially cripple farmers. They say they are concerned with the economic effects on the state, even though there is need for better water conservation. They call this system a sledgehammer approach, which may be devastating for farmers all over the state. One expert says the metering system will not provide an accurate reading of how much water farmers use. Well, making waves with a water-saving mindset as many cities struggle to meet the state-mandated cuts. One community is on track. KPBS reporter Claire Tregeser shows us the secret behind its success.
Growing. It's growing when we water them.
How long do you think it's going to take?
A long time.
A long time? We'll have to be patient, won't we?
Yeah.
Encinitas resident Greg Bullock is digging in his garden with his daughter Eleanor. She smacks her shovel down between 2 cucumber plants. She's named them Jojo and Rosie.
Let's see how Rosie's doing today.
She's doing good.
She's doing good.
When Bullock moved into his house, he set up a system that pumps gray water from his washing machine to his garden.
And that's just a simple on-off valve
for plants like Jojo and Rosie to use.
You know, some people thought we were crazy 4 years ago, but no, I think there's a tipping point now.
The small ones are still growing.
The tipping point is California's massive drought, which has led to drastic cutbacks across the state.
I'm issuing an executive order mandating substantial water reduction across our state.
But Encinitas Mayor Kristen Gaspar says her city has long had a water-saving mindset.
I'm really proud of Encinitas residents because I do believe that we have a culture of water conservation already in place and an extreme level of environmental awareness among our residents.
The wealthy beach community has a reputation for being environmentally aware. It has a 37-acre botanic garden filled with examples of water-wise plants.
They're kind of reddish. It's in a low plant like that.
Thousands of visitors, many of them Encinitas residents, walk its grounds each year and get tips on how to save precious water. And it's working. The city's main water district was one of the top 3 in Southern California that slashed its water use the most over the past 2 years. It cut back far more than any other city in San Diego County. Still, Encinitas residents use on average more water than San Diego residents. Encinitas is served by 2 water districts, and one of them hasn't cut back. The Olivenhain district in the eastern portion of the city only reduced use by 2% in April. Gaspar says that's likely because the district covers much more than Encinitas.
You have to look at where the boundary lines are drawn, and we have some more of our agriculture rural areas being served by Olivenhain Municipal Water District.
The San Dieguito Water District, which covers the coastal portion of the city, only has to cut a little more to get to the state-mandated 28%. But Gaspar says that will still be a challenge.
We know that our customers have done everything that they can to conserve, and now asking them to conserve again is another challenge. So we're trying to find ways to incentivize at this point and also up our outreach into the community.
Both districts have similar rules, including limiting water to 2 days a week for no more than 10 minutes. But the San Dieguito district also set up special pricing that rewards water savers and punishes big water users.
This was all grass, and so I've taken out all my grass, and I said, you are seeing it as ugly phase. It's going to be lovely when I'm done.
Diane Hazard is redoing the landscaping at her Encinitas home.
And I feed them my kitchen scraps.
She also composts for her garden.
I've turned my property into a sponge.
And set up a system to collect rainwater that flows down her driveway.
So I'm moving the water, directing it around the house and down and collecting the back. So there'll be a rain barrel on this side of the house, behind the garage, and over there as well.
Hazard has lived in her home for a long time, but says the drought encouraged her to make changes now.
When I first moved out here, it was in the 80s, and we were also in a drought. There was a lot of drum banging, but it didn't seem to stick. And when the water came, that mentality went away, and I think that's wrong. I think we really weren't meant to have big grass yards and be water guzzlers.
Starting this month, Hazard and her neighbors will have to cut water use a little more. Still, they're gallons ahead of the rest of the county. Claire Tregesser, KPBS News.
KPBS video journalist Katie Shulov helped produce that story. Our coverage on California's drought emergency continues online. You can find Running Dry at kpbs.org/drought. A powerful voice joining a growing chorus to remove a controversial symbol from the State House grounds in South Carolina. Governor Nikki Haley said today the Confederate flag should be moved. This comes after a young white man who embraced the flag was charged with the shooting deaths of 9 black church members. A week of funerals is ahead for the victims from the Emmanuel AME Church. A powerful show of support over the weekend. Thousands repeated messages of love and solidarity as they linked up on a towering bridge. The historic sanctuary also reopened for Sunday service. In San Diego, clergy are organizing a forum to address race and religion. Peggy Pico has more on that event.
San Diego religious leaders are coming together to address racial issues and how to heal from last week's murders inside the Emmanuel AME Church in South Carolina. Joining me with details are my guests, San Diego's National Action Network President, Reverend Shane Harris, and Vice President Bishop Cornelius Bowser. And I'd like to ask you both, and I'll start with you, Bishop. What are the members of your congregation saying about last week's shooting?
Well, they say it's a horrible incident that happened, and most definitely impressed, especially with what happened in Charleston in the courtroom about forgiveness, because that's what we're about, repentance and forgiveness. And, you know, we talked about fear in our church, so no more fear, to try to remove that, and they agreed, you know, and I think before we had the service, there was, you know, when the incident first happened, there was a little fear, but after that, you know, and reassuring them that God is with us.
And Reverend, you're shaking your head. Yes. Are you hearing the same things, or is it too soon to forgive?
No, I don't think it's ever too soon. I think that you have to analyze the situation and be able to then forgive after you have looked at the in-depth situation.
All right, and Bishop Bowser, I know some of your response that I've been reading about this, the Charleston's killings, is that there's a system that's keeping racism in place. What kind of system are you talking about?
I'm talking about the judicial system, and I'm talking about the legislative system. If you look at the laws that have been passed and how people of color are handled in the court systems, there's most definitely a systematic system in there. You know, if give a quick example, you know, gang laws with black and brown. You know, when you look at the prison system, 70% is black and brown in prison. So most definitely that system and the court systems, you know, what we heard in Charleston, the judge said that the perpetrator's family was a victim. We don't hear that when it's a black perpetrator, and we'd like to hear the same thing.
I see. And Reverend Harris, now South Carolina has a long history of racial tension, of course, dating back to slavery and Confederatism. San Diego doesn't have the same history, clearly. We're a younger city here. So how would you characterize the racial divide here?
I definitely think it's more systematic. When you look at Charleston, or a place like Charleston down south, you get a lot of upfront, in-your-face kind of reaction to these issues. Here it's more systematic, it's hidden. When you look at our city, you see the beach, you see the palm trees, and it's a very relaxed city. We are a younger city, but we are very relaxed. But in reality, we do have a racial divide and issues systematically that sort of happen, like what Bishop Bowser is saying these issues are inner, they're more systematic, you don't see them, but they're happening. And I quite frankly would rather have the upfront in your face, because then at least I know where you stand. Here's a city where you really don't know where people stand.
And I know I've spoken to a lot of people of color who said that they get pulled over a lot, things like that, subtle ways. Is that what you're talking about? I see. Now, Reverend Harris, or Bishop, let me ask you this. The focus of the National Action Network, what is that about?
Well, National Action Network deals with civil rights issues on a national level. So, you know, here in San Diego, when we had some issues that were locally, but it should have been nationally, national attention should have been focused in that area. That's where National Action Network comes in.
Okay, and what kind of topics are going to be addressed? I know you're developing a forum. The group is developing a forum to address what happened in South Carolina. Can you hit on some of the topics?
All right.
Yes.
Well, yeah, so the forum is basically going to bring together some of our very powerful clergy here in the city, white, black, Hispanic, Asian, and we really wanted to strategically do that because of the fact that many times when things happen in our black communities or highlighted our black communities, we want to run to the black community to get answers and perspective. But I think in this forum we want to bring all different races of clergy, backgrounds and denominations together to discuss these racial divide issues that are even in the church. Dr. King said in the 1960s that 11 o'clock on Sunday morning is the most segregated hour of the week, and that still is happening in 2015, and we're going to have that discussion.
And that's among the clergy. Will the congregation be involved, and,
yes.
And can anyone attend? Really?
Yes, anybody can attend. Their churches will be there. But we want to definitely, as far as the leadership perspective, it starts with the leaders. And until the community sees the church leaders walking together, the flock will not follow. The flock will go where the leader, where the shepherd goes.
Bishop, I'll have to end with you here. What would you like to see come out of this forum and this discussion here in San Diego?
I would like to see our local spiritual leaders come out of the box, walls of the church, and get more involved with what's going on in the community as we deal with these racial issues, whether it's community policing, or whether it's dealing with the judicial system or legislative laws.
I see. Well, we are out of time. Bishop Cornelius Bowser and Reverend Shane Harris, thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
San Diego is one of the least affordable housing markets in the country. The median price for a single-family home is around $500,000. So when we heard Habitat for Humanity was expanding an affordable housing project in El Cajon, I went to speak with Habitat's construction manager about the challenge of building 4 homes in 5 days.
Today we'll probably have anywhere between 150 and 200 volunteers on site. My name is Ken Cosman with San Diego Habitat for Humanity. I'm the Chief Construction Officer. Phase 1 was in 2009. We built 4 homes, and then this lot that we're building on now is empty that belonged to somebody else, so we were able to purchase that and then develop this project. Building in Blitz saves money, and then we don't sell it to them at the full price. They can't afford it. So then we hold a second mortgage. The city has some money into the game, and that makes it affordable for them. So we can't exceed 30% of their annual income for their mortgage. These 4 homes being built in a week saves us about a year. It would take us about a year to build 4 homes. It really is all about our families. This is why we do what we do, is to put our families into homes. They buy their homes. It's not. People think these homes are given to them. It's not. They pay a 0% equivalent mortgage, so they earn their homes and they pay for them. And that helps pay it forward to the next houses that we build.
Habitat International started the Building Blitz in 2005. This year's goal is to build 300 new affordable homes across the country. The families in El Cajon should be able to move in by late December. A new attempt to reduce drug-related deaths behind bars. The Department of Corrections plans to spend $8 million on a new program to stop drug smuggling operations. It calls for new drug-detecting scanners, drug-sniffing dogs. Some lawmakers say the program will unfairly criminalize people. Raising awareness for transgender youth, a San Diego clinic is helping young people dealing with gender identity. Earlier, Peggy Pico spoke with 2 doctors about the complexity of transgender identity in kids.
Joining me with what's being done at one San Diego hospital to improve understanding, offer support, help kids, teens, and families dealing with gender identity are my guests, Dr. Ron Newfield and Dr. Maya Marinkovich with Rady Children's Gender Management Clinic. And Dr. Marinkovich, when did this gender management clinic actually start, and what led to the opening?
We had seen some patients sporadically prior to 2012, but in mid-2012 our clinic has become more official. And since that time we have experienced increased number of referrals, and to date we have seen over 80 new patients in our clinic.
What is transgender? What do we know about it?
Transgender, or gender dysphoria, well, I should say first, transgender is a very broad term that includes people who are not congruent with their assigned or natal gender.
So what they were born with?
Correct, what they were born with. And gender dysphoria is a state of typically depression, anxiety, and dysphoria that in some cases is accompanied with gender non-congruence, particularly if care is not available.
And Dr. Newfield, how old are the kids and teens that you typically see, and what do they tell you about how they feel about their biological gender?
Most of the children that do come to us as teenagers and adolescents, although we do have some children that come at a very young age, sometime in elementary school, but the majority are in their teen and adolescence, and most of them come after many years of inner struggle, sometimes knowing that something is not right, sometimes not being able to quite figure out what is different about them, and oftentimes parents will think they might be gay or think that they're just a phase that's going to pass, and then they realize that this is something that is there. And for a lot of them, they really just feel very uncomfortable in the body that they were born. I mean, they'll express that very vocally sometimes.
When they come in, if you would walk us through the work that you do at the clinic there, what kind of evaluations and services do you offer?
What we hope to see is that when the patients do come to our clinic, that they've at least seen already some therapists. And in the majority of the cases, that's indeed the case, so that they've already seen a therapist, whether it's for depression or cutting, self-harming themselves, or actually discussing already their feeling that they're transgender. But sometimes we have patients that come to us without actually having seen any therapist, and part of our role is really to direct them to the right people that can help them. In general, not just in Rady, worldwide, the guidelines from the Endocrine Society and from other bodies in the world define our role not as the one making the diagnosis of somebody that is or is not transgender. It's really for experienced mental health providers, and it requires a few sessions at least to get a good full evaluation. And that's our role, really, to make sure that they get that.
So once they're evaluated, Dr. Marinkovich, do you also address some of the physical changes, let's say a teen or a young child needs to cope with?
That depends on the age of the patient. If the patient comes to our clinic at earlier stage of puberty, we can certainly, with parental consent, provide medication to stop development of unwanted puberty.
So hormones?
These are actually called puberty blockers.
I see.
These are hormones that are used commonly in endocrine practice for other conditions. So they are used in these cases to halt the puberty and allow time for this patient to continue through therapy and to make sure that this is not a phase.
Yeah, and that brings me to a question for you, Dr. Newfield. What about, how do parents know if this is a phase or not, if it's just a stage, or if there's something really going on as far as gender identity?
I think there are two periods that we know developmentally. Gender identity starts in a lot of children at a very young age, so before they enter elementary school. But for some of them, it's not something that is so clear in their mind, and we are living in a binary society. So even if they're feeling different, sometimes they will feel that at a young age and then will suppress that. And there are two age groups that we see that present. The one that present very early in their early childhood are those that sometimes it will be a phase, and somebody that was born a male would want to play with a girl's toys just because he has an older sister, and that may very well be a phase. But for some of these people, it's very, very clear that it is not a phase, and especially when they present in their teen and adolescent years. So we know from the literature, and the Dutch have had a lot of experience for many decades, that when you're already presenting as an adolescent, it's rarely ever a phase.
All right. Well, Dr. Marinkovich and Dr. Newfield, thank you very much.
Our pleasure.
Thank you very much.
I'm Judy Woodruff. On the next News Hour, kick off the week with the latest on the race for the White House. That's Politics Monday on the PBS News Hour.
Hanging on for dear life, 66 surfers crowded onto a single surfboard in Huntington Beach to set a new Guinness World Record. That's the most people to ride a surfboard at the same time. Thousands showed up to watch the world record attempt Saturday. We are waiting on confirmation to see if they set the record for the largest surfboard, standing 42 feet, weighing over 1,000 pounds. Bracing for an army of minions and stormtroopers, signs of Comic-Con popping up now in downtown San Diego. Even though the festival is more than 2 weeks away, KPBS reporter Matt Bowler says businesses are banking on a big year.
Like Christmas, Comic-Con seems to come earlier every year. And this year, even though Marvel, Sony, and Paramount aren't coming, some say the festival is back to pre-recession levels. Comic-Con banners are up all over downtown, and businesses are getting ready. Raina Kay from the Hard Rock Hotel says the con is back.
And I think in the last couple of years, it's returned to its full glory after maybe the economy, was suffering a little bit. Now it's just back
And businesses don't have to be in the hospitality industry to profit from Comic-Con. Joven Sebug runs San Diego's only bike messenger company, Courier Collective. He rides about 50 to 70 miles a day, mostly in downtown. Sebug says he's already working for Comic-Con attendees.
A lot of people from different countries are calling us to pick up packages that they've sent here to take to a storage unit or take to their hotel.
Looking ahead nearly 3 weeks to Comic-Con, Sebug says he's going to need to hire more riders.
We're going to have to beef up our staff. The more people that are here and the more people who are needing flowers delivered to their Princess Leia.
It takes a long time to gear up for the country's largest pop culture festival. Kay says the Hard Rock Hotel started getting ready for this year, the Monday after last year's.
We really start planning for Comic-Con a year out. So we go through the big parade of Comic-Con and then we come into the office the next week and we start getting calls for the next year.
Maybe before this year's con gets started, it's the best time to start planning for next year's. Matt Bowler, KPBS News.
Warm weather for San Diego in the first week of summer. 70s by the beaches over the next few days. A mix of sun and clouds inland with temperatures there in the mid to upper 80s. Sunny in the mountains with temperatures in the 80s and triple digits for the desert. Of course, you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.